It was supposed to be an ordinary day. One more delivery, one more smile, one more route to complete before heading home. At 4:22 p.m. on August 21st, 2023, 23-year-old delivery driver Aurman Singh left a voicemail for his mother. His voice was calm, casual, the kind of tone that makes you think everything is fine. "I'm nearly home, Mom. Just the one more stop." Those words would echo in her mind forever. Moments later, that same delivery route, a routine job in the quiet town of Shrewsbury, England, turned into the scene of a brutal ambush that would shock the entire country. The streets of Bellevue were peaceful that afternoon. Children were still out riding bikes. Dogs barked lazily from gardens. And yet, in the space of seconds, that peace would be shattered. Aurman Singh was a young man who lived by a simple code: work hard, help others, and keep moving forward. Born on May 24, 1999, in Smethwick, Birmingham, he was the son of Rajinder Singh, a mechanic, and Harpreet Kaur Singh, a loving mother who kept the family grounded. They weren't wealthy, but they were rich in what mattered: support, laughter, faith. His father used to say he never left home without his football boots, and that he dreamed of buying his mom a house someday. Friends remember his grin, the kind that lifted a whole room. He wasn't loud or flashy, but he was dependable. He cared. He worked long hours, saved what he could, and even on his worst days, he stayed optimistic. By June 2022, Aurman had found steady work at DPD, one of Britain's biggest parcel delivery companies. The shifts were long, the hours unpredictable, but the freedom of the open road suited him. He'd joke with other drivers about the best shortcuts or which routes had the kindest customers. He loved the job, Harpreet recalled later. He told me, "Mom, I've got a key card now. I'm part of the team." He was proud of that. At the Smethwick depot, he made friends easily. And that's where he met Sukhmandeep Singh, another driver. Sukhmandeep was older, more experienced, confident, the kind of guy who always seemed to have a plan. He offered to carpool, to help with tricky routes, to share tips. At first, he felt like a mentor. They'd chat over tea, swap playlists, talk about extra shifts and overtime. "We'll make extra runs at weekends," Sukhmandeep told him one March morning. "We'll both finish early. More money, less stress." At first, it sounded perfect. But perfect things rarely stay that way. By April 2023, Aurman's mother noticed the first signs something was off. He started working later. He looked tired. His messages home got shorter. On April 28, he texted, "Mom, I'll be late tonight, 9 p.m. at least." She replied, "Okay, drive safe." But a mother always knows when something's wrong. He came home quiet that weekend. Told his dad that Sukhmandeep had mates hanging around the depot after hours, guys with a black Audi. His father brushed it off, young men being social, but there was something about Aurman's tone, a worry he couldn't quite voice. Weeks passed, then months. On May 14th, he called his sister in India. His voice was weary. "They're offering me £300 extra a weekend if I take the late shifts," he said. He hesitated. "It's fine, Mum, just for this month." But the hours grew longer. The smiles faded. His sleep vanished. Something or someone was pulling him deeper into a web he didn't see forming. By July, the change was impossible to ignore. One night, around 11:45 p.m., he came home later than ever. His flatmate noticed he barely said a word. He was quiet, straight to bed. I thought maybe he'd argued with someone. The next night, it happened again. Then on July 30th, he called home just before midnight. "Route's been extended," he said. "I'll be back late. Can you lock the flat when I'm in?" His mother agreed. But when he came home at 1:15 a.m., he didn't speak. He sat on his bed for a long time, head in his hands. The pressure was building. Then came the day that would change everything. August 21st, 2023. It was a Monday. Warm, bright, The kind of afternoon where nothing bad should happen. Aurman's shift started early. He packed his van with parcels, scanned his route list, and set off toward Shrewsbury. By 4 p.m., he was almost done. Just one more delivery left on his list. A small parcel for a home in Bellevue. He turned onto Berwick Avenue. At 4:12 p.m., the street was quiet. He parked the white DPD van neatly along the curb, switched off the ignition, grabbed the package, and walked toward the front door of number 24. A doorbell camera captured the moment. He pressed the bell, waited, shifted his weight from one foot to the other, checked his phone. That's when, down the street, two cars slowed to a crawl. A black BMW X5 and a silver Vauxhall Astra. At 4:22 p.m., both vehicles stopped. Two masked men stepped out. One held a golf club-shaped weapon. The other carried a heavy bag. They moved fast. They knew exactly where he'd be. The footage blurs. Aurman turns. There's a struggle, a flash of metal, a sound like thunder. One neighbor, Mrs. Nadine Hopkins, later told police, "I heard a crash like metal hitting something hard, then a car speeding away." Within seconds, the attackers were gone. The street was silent again. The white van's engine still hummed softly. At 4:37 p.m., paramedics arrived to find Aurman lying beside the van. His eyes open, his DPD fleece stained red, his scanner still in his hand. He'd suffered catastrophic head injuries from blunt objects later identified as a golf club and a shovel. Despite desperate attempts, he was pronounced dead at 4:49 p.m. Detective Chief Inspector Mark Bellamy would later describe the scene in one chilling sentence. His eyes were fixed open. It was like someone pressed stop. The following morning, news broke across the UK. DPD delivery driver murdered on his route. The story struck a nerve. This wasn't gang violence. This wasn't a random street attack. It was a working man doing his job. The police investigation moved fast. CCTV from Berwick Avenue revealed the two cars fleeing within seconds of the assault. Both vehicles, the BMW and the Astra, were later found abandoned near Kynaston Road and Hubert Way. Forensics recovered DNA on a shovel handle and paint traces on a broken golf club head. Detectives traced the registration plates and cross-checked with mobile phone data. One name appeared repeatedly in call logs, GPS coordinates, and depot route sheets: Sukhmandeep Singh. It was the same man who'd shared lifts, laughed over lunch, and promised extra runs. Within 48 hours, police arrested him on suspicion of conspiracy to murder. He denied everything, claimed he'd been running errands. But his phone told a different story. Cell tower data placed him just miles from the scene during the time of the attack. Message histories revealed contact with 4 other men: Arshdeep Singh, Jagdeep Singh, Shivdeep Singh, and Manjot Singh, all from the West Midlands area. The tone of their messages was cryptic but incriminating. One read, "Route lists confirmed, 4-man crew. Tonight's the one." Another, "Make sure van door open. He gets out. Check lock." It was a betrayal beyond comprehension. On August 25th, police raided homes in Smethwick and Dudley. They seized phones, cash, and a stash of makeshift weapons. Within days, all 5 men were in custody. The case that began as a possible robbery gone wrong quickly evolved into a murder conspiracy. The motive? Still unclear. But the trail didn't stop there. 2 other suspects, Mehakdeep Singh and Sehajpal Singh, fled to Austria, forcing international warrants. They were later extradited back to the UK and stood trial the following year. Inside Stafford Crown Court, the evidence stunned jurors. Prosecutor Richard Price KC described the murder as a gang-style ambush, a working man doing his job, targeted because of inside information. CCTV footage played in silence. Doorbell footage. The attack lasted less than 30 seconds. The jurors watched, some with their hands over their mouths. Forensic experts testified that the blood patterns and impact marks showed severe, intentional force. The detective sergeant said quietly, They waited for him. They planned it. During cross-examination, the defense tried to argue lack of motive, but the Crown reminded jurors that motive is not required when malice and planning are proven. The jury agreed. On March 28, 2024, 4 of the men, Arshdeep, Jagdeep, Shivdeep, and Manjot, were found guilty of murder. Sukhmandeep, the insider, was convicted of manslaughter. In the months that followed, 2 more trials took place. Mehakdeep and Sahajpal were found guilty of murder in April 2025. A final suspect fled to India and remains at large. All others received life sentences, with minimum terms exceeding 25 years. Outside court, Harpreet Singh stood trembling, her words barely audible. "My son was coming home. He was coming home to me." The judge described the attack as callous, cowardly, and brutal. The prosecutor said, "This was not a spur-of-the-moment assault. It was a planned ambush on an unarmed man who posed no threat." Yet the question still lingers. Why? Why ambush a man who'd done nothing but work hard? Investigators suggested a falling out, perhaps tied to unpaid debts or jealousy over shifts. Others whispered about a confrontation at a kabaddi tournament the day before the murder, a fight where one of the attackers had been humiliated. But officially, no motive was ever proven. As journalists pressed for answers, the family stayed silent. "There's no reason that could make sense," Rajendra said. "No reason worth his life." In the aftermath, something shifted across the delivery industry. DPD introduced tighter route tracking security, randomized shift data, and panic alarms in vans. Other courier firms followed suit. Drivers began pairing up for late shifts. Aurman's colleagues raised funds for his family and pinned small laminated cards in every depot van. "Drive safe. Remember Aurman." Back in Smithwick, Harpreet keeps his old DPD fleece folded on the couch. Every morning she lights a small candle beside his photo. "He wanted to make me proud," she said. "He already did." The attack didn't just take a life. It tore open a community. For weeks after, vigils filled the streets. Friends and fellow drivers held signs reading, "Justice for Aurman," and "Every driver deserves to come home." At one memorial, his friend Amar spoke through tears. "He was the guy who'd help you move house and still smile after a 12-hour shift. That's who they took from us." Each August 21st, the town gathers again. Candles line Berwick Avenue, flickering under the glow of street lamps. Some who never even met him show up just to pay respect. A priest speaks a few words. A football lies beneath his photo, scuffed, old, the kind he once carried everywhere. The Aurman Singh Foundation, launched by his family, now funds mental health and safety programs for delivery workers. Their mission? To make sure no driver ever faces what Aurman did alone, unaware, undefended. But behind every campaign, every candle, there's still that quiet, devastating truth. He was just trying to finish his shift. And so we come back to that moment at 4:22 p.m. A voicemail that said, "I'm nearly home, Mum." Words meant to comfort. Words that became the last sound his family would ever hear from him. Aurman Singh wasn't a statistic. He wasn't a headline. He was a son, a brother, a friend. He was a young man who believed in hard work and kindness, who trusted the wrong person, and who paid the ultimate price for that trust. If this story moved you, if you believe Aurman deserves to be remembered, not for how he died, but for how he lived, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Let his name echo louder than the silence that followed. Like this video if you stand for safety and justice for every worker who just wants to get home. And don't forget to subscribe, because we tell the stories that matter. Stories that give voice to the victims. Stories that remind us why empathy still matters.